Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for attending again this afternoon, and viewers online. You're welcome very much to the inquiry. I'll ask lead counsel to bring a witness back in again.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thanks for the patience for everyone who was online and in the room. And we are pleased to welcome back our panel from Innu Roundtable Secretariat. And I would at this time invite you to continue, Ms. Rich.
I'll just interrupt and say that the afternoon is yours, so we're not working with the other witnesses today, so take your time.
Minä teki banana makke ei träna ja ei teki etto träna Amanda.
Good afternoon, everybody. Before we ended for lunch, I spoke a bit about some examples that we've have experienced. Also what I've experienced within prevention services and the unique situations that we come about. I'd like to go back to talking about the Innu CSSD protocol. In the protocol, there are different processes that are written, and it also entails on how we can work together with the province protection services with regards to some of these processes.
Nante se mastekaan mutta no wismupunin niistä no tsekonnoa nante se tsekonnoa naptikauna witahanta nante se tsekonno F-ntakewina emma kantente se provincial nante se experience tässä nante se F-tukutsa mageno but we within nante se no jante CSSD. Magandente mitjimma magano agataga es fanajian wante shenis it prevention have ana prevention and wante he todas sa tobunaji todas magano to huacheno na CSSD mitjimma.
In day-to-day work, obviously we have to communicate with the protection system services. And as I was speaking earlier, this is the start of, gaining information, receiving information, and I want to speak about an experience that I had with meeting with the zone manager that's in the Shehajit office.
Maganente se oita habjeno es fnajen injmamu etachan tante he no jhasntente se mitjma tante fnaja magandante he es todas jwa maganu ikchantante he wan mu hatmani nante se tante he fnajen tante se jwano tante he en se todas tante he wino magandante he es Martin nante se zone manager kan ich ja intente se mitjma.
So at first, the zone manager invited me to a meeting that we had in our office at the Innu Roundtable Secretariat, and it was to discuss cases that were potential of heading to a permanent transfer of custody. A permanent transfer of custody is the department handing over legal rights to a caregiver through a court process, and that when that is in process, the judge makes the decision that when that goes ahead, the legal custody of that child would be going to the caregiver, and CSSD no longer has the decision making of that child. So I was in a meeting with the zone manager to talk about that process. It also leads into a different process that families, because it leads only to, there's a process to the permanent transfer of custody. So we went to talking about in terms of, okay, in order for a caregiver to get the responsibility and have that decision making of that child, there would have to be some steps that need to be taken in place before that happens. So that would include 6 executive visits, home visits from CSSD to the foster home. And if everything on their checklist is marked complete, then it would go into a court process where CSSD is providing the information, and a judge would make a decision whether that child will go into a permanent transfer of custody. But with that, that child and that family would still have minimum supervision, I guess, from CSSD, only because there is still a financial benefit for that family. So I believe that it is once a year that CSSD would come to that family, making sure that, you know, everything is okay and that child is still being supported.
Magadan deze dente wasamagan dente jento dente nish anamanja dente IRT dente jejinwa withaseno dente wasa dente queste jejinte snagan dente da jui bisen denish jui bista smujen de danish ante 제가 막 내인지야 dente court Egun butante he jita bahang sihona magantante she jeji ushirang jen de shothang de was nagatwen magan jen de she win one nagatwen mugata tende he jeji tante magantante she enwante she magana zone manager kante enwante he ya sabanten dan is the one is not hatcha. And Dante Hedgewin is not going to see Hanunian Dante Henish Jejin Dante Neoshata, Nakande Jejitata. Magdante Hedge, a abajuena can I do Madwasa Jens Totwada. And on the hair, Deshin Magan Genua, Dante Jens Nagatop Mandena was Sante Win Jejut Nada. Magandante tokuano jegwa new chandante she jenishe todasa jiguino mohat mujgatuna jeji yach manapuncha magandante he jeji mobastwagat ni wasa dente he foster home ta jente ga ken magno wasa magandante he jeji moshna jiguina ga magno moshna jigi mopanano jeji 제지 만나본지는한테 해 미지미지만원 있어 제지 에논 있어 주고 있었더만 있어 제가 제지 배드시나하 에논한테 해 간시 센마드나 보도 왔어 막한테 해 센이 하게 위나 막 Magandante siya kwede ginagawa maganda abuja. Tsaka jisuga mesti noji hikano tante siya winagtugna. Maganute siya shunya hintente siya anje nagatwen machino wasagone abujinte siya chita batang tante siya abuja. Ego mano jemshe jegwanante jimano bunchi make was jeji tukuna jeji shui jagan tegewina.
What year was that, Amanda?
I believe that was in 2022 or 2023.
Tantante paponandagno ya Amanda eguntewe 2022 bot make 2023 bot ndo.
When we were in that meeting, when she first started discussing that with me, the cases, I then started thinking, and then I stopped her. I stopped her so I could ask a simple question. It was my first instinct as an Innu woman, as an Innu mother. And I asked her, where is the role of the birth parents in this? And then she said, there was no role.
Magandante siya nanumucha ante siya unawi hasna de gente dende he nanumucha ante siya unawi ta he mijmijma ante siya tatinchino wasajut no mushnangno magandante siya namam ne he btani ko te yo ante nakaw btante nunte siya mi kutsma ujega nunte ego an nenu mushisa tuinamenta tantente win tante weno tantanta win hachinje tante wen wana nkwamo mako samwa.
I felt overwhelmed thinking how this could affect with past pain of Innu parents that have lost their rights because of their circumstances. How wrong it was. I advocated in that meeting that this process would not move until the Innu representatives spoke to the birth parents with giving them the news of what was going to happen to their Innu child.
Ego must nishagun you must nafatugun you Amanda nunte she ego nandante he tanje de chinte he nante she enwa nkwamo mako ha ego tsgachi nafno chegantagno ego deshibunza tsgachi magno jajin tehne nan nkwamo mako ha nunte she jenafinte wasa no was.
Through this process, most parents were very supportive of the plan of what was going to happen to their child because they were going to remain with their extended families, whether that was a grandparent or auntie or uncle or sister. But there was a few that didn't want to go through that process. But CSSD honored our request that if parents did not want to go through that process, that they would not push it.
Maganda mijmijma magda sen nisinte o wan fini hagan chance no ja nchang kwamo jeji nista which jagan segavino tanje tinjino twasmo entende jeji na fanna chintende jeji tanjinte nish otoso bodbodente o huma entende he we han shmo ja jeji tacha tanje na fande ha mijmijma ego kawit enonte he jeji inte be pa pisse chintende he jeji min ko cha cheka magno hinja ego muito tomo janonte na mijmijma kawito ta hawente onte ona o sama ma que non como te china fanonte.
This is truly an example of what services might look like in an Innu law. Birth parents may not be in a position to make decisions for their Innu children, but should always be informed about what happens to their child. This is a given. We can't repeat what history has already done.
Magdan teshe nyusa tiga un teshe esna kwasha den teshe nuwase jestuagan sha dan teshe esna kwasha dan teshe nchachukui nimshwe se mutena nkwamos mag usamoja enguna dan teshe tiga nishna kunywa mintuna nune nega kana funja.
I'd also like to give an example of the advocacy that we do for Innu families that are currently within the system as well. Back in 2023, as we're going along and building our relationships, as we get more information, we have more questions. And I found through this process, there was just more to ask and understanding why certain decisions were being made or that was already made.
Magdan teshe nyuta dan teshe eno teshe chino jas den teshe noje nche usamoja magwamoja. Magan den teshe nche nefnitchen noja enish totoagan nche den teshe winwa ene chichi taba manueno ish noja santa 2023 dan teshe ano Mr. Puna eno teshe ayakan de tukun yuno teshe mishaw yuno teshe jegwano teshe shikasna sa ish siniha sa ish behasa magano but jeji ko kwejmo jegwano magano teshe jegwantan teshe ya chefnja.
As my relationship got stronger with the provincial government and the provincial directors, I had a lot of questions with regards to the current situation of Innu foster families after having to be told about the different levels of the continuum of care. There are 4 levels.
Magan teshe nyusa dan teshe we to semto den teshe dan teshe siniha den teshe provincial government den teshe we we choj mahentea. Magan teshe enon teshe mishe jino jegwano na kwejmucha enon teshe efnji. Magan teshe tokuano eta tishi neo tase kwenyo.
Within the protocol, the province, has to give us information as we request it, and within our data, we can see that there were many Innu foster families within both communities. There are children that are placed outside, but the larger number is with Innu foster families in both communities, and when I had asked in terms of what the financials looked like for supporting that Innu child or Innu children, I was floored, I guess, when it came to the different levels. So the first level of being a foster family, a foster placement, you would just be getting basic funding, basic base funding. The second level is a level where you would be getting additional funding from CSSD if you have the program that is training you when it comes to pride training. And it's a Western program that focuses on the safety of a child, but it does not clearly give emphasis on culture, language, identity. So that was something that raised a concern with me.
Magandang niyo sa nish tsaka siya to ni bentente niyo tay eso we tagandente provincial niyo dente chewjmasha antante tueni has no jechi nishnago no te no se kuis mante magandante dente etati change no wasja dente etachente foster hotagan dente we han shumasha Magante wasjente wewet mich eta chevja ga eta chintente utnosh utenamasha magandante mich wantente new chante de foster families dente esnak to magan chintente utenamashinte maganonte jeji wichagan chinwasja Intente new es with magan condition faster and then the nagden magan swasaja mokunan ni hate no basic funding ni hate you magan on te egwano katno and on te tunde ne jiminagan since shonya no tente tota ha no and on no training ni hate you no and on te programs and on te atuskaya que mantente western niwa tente queste tente was chikuit mattokan tan wina no tente was no jeji se ha esniota mag uwe wina jeji sen mushota mag engona tante una pasum kan tante kashoka enoyat kashoka menoni sa concern no tamushabana.
I spoke to my team members about how concerned I was for that, because at the time, I knew that prevention staff was working tirelessly with giving recommendations of where children, there could have been foster breakdowns, or there hasn't been very many removals, but I wanted, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, who else is going to advocate for Innu foster families in order to get what they need in order to support their Innu children? I looked at, the most important things that an Innu sees, that I see, making sure that that child is exposed to Innu language, that is connected to their extended family, that they still have their identity, even though they may be going through a hard time in their life, but to always feel that they belong. And I thought, I spoke to my boss, Germaine, and I said, I want to advocate on this. So I got in touch with the Deputy Minister of CSSD, and I requested a meeting to talk about this. And I wanted to see change.
Magandante na utiano wajato semata with mehne non te kamen khagute non te es wanshna gunja and tante eto sechente prevention non te jigana finche wana magen wante tanwan wante shufase no magenche ansage and jabchenche gnagatwen faster gnagatwen meja ji bahisa tante Entonces, 제지 간 가듯이 나그는 치미나지 제지 간 가듯이 나그는 치봤으자 에고 Teni he nucha ta ueno cheno chaha ueno che wet shuda che jinu ueno te he chita ba he fne ja and wasa chen chen te chan no wasa chen je ji chita ma gna cha je ji wi cha gna cha ba ja ma gna te she eno be ba je ji chita ba gna chen cha wasa chen no Utan mano jeji gaoni hatas mag jeji gaoni ha shu shu chwa se ju win wa utan den de we shi new san den ju etho hecha en on te she ya betgan funcha den te she ut new no sha en on te she ya jeji seni tas uten te she etha cha tan den den de he we shi buncha jeji den mo cha de den te she etha sha e kon te ma on te no shan mia ena uchmama ego gine no mo shpne no cheji yata no chi ha he no kutna ego etweni mo ko no cheji an mancha tante niwa pa he nyon cheji ashibun chinyo
It took me about a year to see a good result in that. I had a first meeting with the deputy minister at the Confederation office here in St. John's. A few months went by. I did not receive any correspondence with regards to my request. And my request was making sure that Innu foster families would be compensated at level 2. Not because that they had pride training, but they were offering so much more than what pride training could give to an Innu child, which included, as what I said earlier, being exposed to Innu language, connection, identity. And finally, earlier on this year, in the spring, I received a letter from the department, from the deputy minister, saying that he was going to honor and approve all Innu foster families to receive the level 2 funding arrangement, because it was the only way to recognize that this was so important. And if I may say, when I look at, how Innu families were being treated in terms of just even getting basic funding at level 1, to me, that was discriminatory. Like I say, it's every day almost an Innu person has to be faced with challenges when it comes to racism. Or having to be very tired in explaining of why. And it took me a year to advocate for that. And I remember when I got that letter, I felt like I could breathe because I was so angry. Because it's like, this isn't right. So I'm really happy with the result of that. And that is, another true example in terms of, when we come to develop our law, when it comes to making sure that Innu children and families are so supported, in every area that we can think of in making sure that family has they're safe and their well-being is at par, like when it comes to being Innu.
배고프는 뜻이 하더니 오는 뜻에 제지 에야다 만만한테 제가 놓지 봐하 ta Jennifer Uhajan tante he na imagan tenante she tente she the Confederation okay the Confederation building new magan tante she desnoa hanyu jeji no be wa jeji with maganta tante en et 20 tante she no jeji minagan 20 no nista level 2 nishnihat ma tante she jeji often no te jeji minagan se jewana maganon te she jeji khutma hochan tante she jeji tabi tam she jewana tante she et we win and tante she jeji tab mo toya en new maganon te she chegan te new chan no namish na magwechvente na tente she wech mountia en un tugoshe benente we en un te het na beth munchi magano jeji minwentia en un te she level 2 ni hat mo no shonya no jeji nishe totan jeji wi jaganta en una na mo jeji jita batgan chinu cha tante jen e yao ni na fi ta ni ta kun ni tente she no just wagno go ya bchinu magan tante level 1 ni she ta mo me un man khago she benen win ka tuna tante pas kapat magno we ya discriminatory but na magan tente she en un te she ab jesho eswa ba o es como chisga wente un te he no una ba no kamen en maganta kamenot nagna and te he tawe skuno new chamu ha je jiwi sa kan je no jegwa no mag jegwan wesins na kwasa ego no te he una ba he no mishnan no engonan e new kajiba chiman no neta and te he je men khagota tante jendan swavna benu chan tante he ukha ka gan to haganta magje manon yu nante he una ba he no mishnan gna magante win noa jeji wasa jeji nagato magant e yawagant wi jagant wasa magantante he jeji man antente wi han mo jab jeji man buna chinte jeji man no chinte jeji manot naseno wi no ant ke no wi no ant no ja wi no no nation news
Giving the examples today to the inquiry really speaks with regards to the path forward. As you may be aware, and with Germaine's testimony this morning, the Innu are on a pathway to an Innu vision of taking over the protection system. But that comes also with challenges.
Magandante she new chanta enote she enoi ma de no inquiry ta kapnonia and then they gente no nan me hat man new chanta ante he jeji e yats mohata senwa mechano den he jenista jenis region with some magandante he shan me tante he absent there kat bajmut nte no en wante he no ke me wata puji age inquiry maganante she en no I wapa has der chandante he gan the funis no en on the jeji utna niste no protection system gonna man tante he cha code na gano jiwas cha tante he tante nis tante he janis kan sho chaji nis wichin ma chan tante he kan sha chita ba hu jiga no ma kan tai to kun ji no che kwa ka sho ka men bun ji ba cha
our services going forward, we do see that we make a difference in advocating for Innu families. But that does come with challenge as well, because we are still currently under the provincial legislation when it comes to child and family services. The Innu won't have a clean slate when we do take over the service. So for the past couple of years, there has been a tremendous amount of Innu coming together to talk about those services. And the prevention staff in both offices have different types of experience of, seeing some very sensitive cases that are coming about. The referrals that we see that are coming from, the department. When I say department, I'm talking about child protection. And when I think about in terms of the Innu law, I think, when a bell starts to ring and it's like, what are the Innu going to do? Because we're not going to have a clean slate when it comes to this service. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Just because we're going to be taking over a service, this particular service, it doesn't erase the harm that's already been done.
Maganon te se tokhanon te se jaji eto chi se pencho que tu no enon te se nisten te jaji a se pencha intente se no niste se nagto ma che no intente se ut nis no chen kwamo jo famosa magan intente se win nei mosna ga chojma provincial chojma mosna ga niste destenja 지금 지시간 뉴찬 온데세 나시나고 뉴찬 단데세 위너 마근 텐데세 노즈베 바제지 마모 에야차 다카다스 마모제지 따제지 안 모하다스난데세 제과 난데세 에시 분분지야 엔데 윈터 찬트 provincial den det church ma ja sin denis na fannon den denis wish es to da han den det en wasa kana ka to meja e kun den det win no company ha jana ka to na nya an deni he ni cha na de ya me to ngin chi ma to ngin deni he ni ma ka tan jan fan jan ni wa den det win to so to de win intente he gato to agan intente se win ma weto kan se to intente se cheuj ma ja tan jen funte tan edonte he si ho cha tan te he win ma je ji no ja jen fni ha chen no ke win ma je ji man da pon tan te se kan fni ha chen tente se ni se cheuj ma provincial which ma en ante se kan se to da che kwa
So I'd like the opportunity to talk about current staffing that we have at the prevention services. I've been saying protection many times, and now that's stuck in my head. Currently, we have 35 full-time staff and we have 4 part-time staff between both communities. As mentioned earlier by Germaine, the number definitely has grown over the years. When we talked a bit about when it came to the funding, the growth of the services going forward. I also wanted to give an example. Well, not an example, but it's something that has to do with children that are that age out of care. So currently, CSSD provides a service called Youth Services, and that is supporting children from the time that they age out of care to the age of 21. From going back and having conversations with the directors, for a long time, that number was very, very low. Understandably, because of the impact that the department had on the communities. So yeah, I'll stop there and then.
Magandang siya prevention services ni hadma gunagawa ba humjino wasa dendeshe nustono shobde da shojente no te gadussenja magenwa neo da shojente 35 days to start it. Echo 4. Okay. And now what she part time get searching. Maga Misha and one day new cha wolfen on you and one day a cheap portion you and one day and cuts at the sona. Maga no shoniano yabja. A young den of no day average new tentation at the searcher. Maga then the was and tante gage and magnacha. Eke and magnach then the CSSD. Mijmijma the province and youth and was youth services dan de het dat punehochen dan de hente 20 national shope da punehochen te and was ka keven magnetsa magdan de den de het directors and they abza den de yapen new not enge mashapen new not Mammy had dimension there. And never tante here a yapen chita, but even you tante here, then the show no, then the wood in a shot. And ante kind of function there.
There was a new program rolling out from the federal government. Very new, has never been done before, which was called Post-Majority Support Services, which would align and be comparison to the current youth services that the department was offering. With post-majority, there were new rules and eligibility when it came to this new funding program. So with youth services that the province was delivering only went up to the age of 21 with definitely some limitations. For post-majority, that support would stay intact until a child turns or a youth would turn 26 on their birthday. So they would be receiving those supports till the age of 26. And it also emphasized so much more within the program because it had so much more funding to support a child in their well-being, when it comes to making sure that the connection between their families were supported. Any financial for a child that wanted to continue on or pursue a career with going to school. They would be receiving a personal allowance. But one of the biggest things that I found really intriguing was the cultural component to that program. And really, there was no limit in terms of, it didn't seem at the time that there was no limit in supporting an Indigenous child when it came to that component of the program.
Takunan te abis niyo tente siya katagan nan wish esho si takan siya niyo tote siya takan siya na kunan tente siya federal government niyo. Enonte siya takan siya minagan no ya tente siya wasa. Tente siya takan siya no nista minagan no jeji takunan tanyo chanta tente siya shoniao na anonte siya shonia no tente siya was wet nagan siya wahaw na shoniao niyo an takan siya nagan niyo was tante siya tatapunes niyo no asho pekwa makan tante siya tunta jeji to ya kanta mina kanta shonya no tante he ni shno asho ta pune je na unta we ji shikmata jeji to we kevin min na to ya kanta wa wi jagan tante ni sta shonya sa jeji khut ma shota ma kanta she ya wet nagan jeji tante she to we jagan tente jeji to seni han tente she wish bente wasa wish tente he katata magan te abju wasi abju we khut ma sho je ajga je abju jagan magan no jeji mina gan te no ni shonia no kewina magan no ante she jeji to khut ma hote no ante he tente he ben ji je wa tante she cultural program gan hi atuma anonte he to jevi vijagan chincha nuwasa.
I think at the time it was understood by the province that the group that should provide that service, that should deliver that service, would be the Innu. I got a call one morning from one of the provincial directors, and she spoke to me, as human to human, because that's the type of relationships that I need going forward. And then she had asked me, so Amanda, do you guys want to deliver post-majority support services? And I was fairly new in my position. There was a lot that I had to do within my position, being the head of the department. And what I had said to her, I said, yes, we will take over this service. We will deliver this service. But for right now, we can't, because we are in development of an agency going forward. But I said, don't misunderstand what I'm saying, that we will deliver this service.
Makadante se with mutante se no ante se matente se province ante se abjuat mo de no judge we no judge no just no to no no e mes no director no ante he which mountain no me testa go himna En tehe e she minuko tatsa en kun se kan she minuko buna. E kun tuos buna en tehe jeji utna seno ante she wino anu tehe jeji no chia sa no tehe kan taskana cha. Ma ken tehe Chino en momento está gutena chino chiut neon tuos buna no tehe takanwa. Ego hetta on te wa nina no jihan taun de jeji te khatasa ma kuino jeji uwe shitacha mo contante se mchinta mo chi to jibut mucha ego teche mai tata mo kuino teche teche yawi chikuin sto hon teche ni gente sihen en wesihe te heni na no jiha no ante se atakhan no jeji no pni hach
I'm proud to give the inquiry the news that November of last year, we were able to hire the first post-majority support services coordinator. And now there is 5 staff under this coordinator. Well, she's a manager. We renamed her because she is looking after post-majority in Shahajit and also in Natwashish.
Maka te hen mne maka ti mo kan te na ka panoni inquiry ta te ka puji ta te he anante gente on November nente chante last year ne ka no ka epon cha antante he no mi tomo anante he ta on tente na wakachantante e ta khata he ka sesta coordinator nish ni hade hem ja go asip to mo hem ja ne me en ante he uchima manager ni hade hem ja en go na ka to ba hante no na to shi mak she ha ji sinte mak ta pete da ta ji na e ta kha ko nte ka to se shi man de
Let's take a break now and give poor Nympha a chance for her brain to recover. 10 minutes, please.